Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Sam Johnson. I'm joined here with Brenda Wanta. And today we're going to be talking about how to improve your payments experience by automating your accounts receivables and your cash flow within NetSuite. I want to do just some quick housekeeping. If you are on the live webinar right now, you are muted, but we want to keep the engagement going. So if you have questions, comments, emotional outbursts throughout today's presentation, please send those into the Q&A box, and we'll make sure that we address those by the end of today's call. This is going to be a 20 to 30-minute webinar session. So we're going to have a lot of good information today on the call. If you're not able to stick around for the entirety of it, or you want to review this after the fact, this is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, and we will send out some follow-up information here shortly. So with that said, I want to do some quick introductions. Like I said, my name is Sam Johnson, Partner Success Manager at PayTrace. Been here for about just under 10 years, and really excited to be joined by Brenda Wanta, CEO of Epiphany. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Sam. Pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Excited to be doing this with you. This has been a partnership that's been in the works for a little while, and really thrilled to be able to get it out to a lot of your audience and to share some of the value that we're generating.
Same here.
So, I want to go over some quick agenda on today's call. We are going to be walking through a deck, but I did want to just set the stage, talking a little bit about Epiphany, PayTrace partnership. We're going to get into some NetSuite payment solution stuff in a little bit, and then we'll get into some Q&As, some next steps. But Brenda, I just wanted to maybe have a quick conversation with you about, the partnership with PayTrace and Epiphany, and really how this came to be, and kind of what's the value that we're going to be delivering to our users.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that. So, you really find the gaps in what you need when the people who do the job every day go on vacation or aren't there for whatever reason. So that happened to me one day. Our lovely bookkeeper said she wanted to take a couple of weeks off. That sounded great until I had to handle the credit card processing. And when I did, I ran into some troubles. And so I wanted to have a phone call for some support. And the first company said, no, we've now split into two companies and that we are no longer associated with each other. Here's their number. So, of course, you know the game. I called that other number. What did they say? Oh, no, it's not us, it's them.
The
And I
other
went,
one.
I am not happy. I'm not happy. No one wants to talk to me. Not even to, I couldn't even get the question out. I was just told, do not talk to me, talk to them. So it was really a precarious situation. I was pretty frustrated. So I searched around and found PayTrace and I asked them questions and they answered my questions. Then we signed on with PayTrace and they still answered our questions, even when we were a customer, not just a prospect. So that was amazing. Like you give them a call and you get answers. And if they don't know, they'll send you to someone who will, and you actually get to ask your question. All those things were amazing. So then also, much to my surprise and delight, it was also less expensive. So it was better support, better management, better pricing, all the, what more do you want? So here we are with PayTrace, and then we decided to start a partnership because it was a really good experience.
I love it. We might have to have a follow-up run on maybe a case study or something, because you have a very unique experience in actually being a user of us and then actually bringing this out to your clients, right? Using this as an opportunity to share this experience with your clients. So I think that's phenomenal. So I love it. So support, right? Payment optimization. I love the fact that we're able to actually save you money on that credit card expense, because it ain't cheap. I'll tell you that. Um, so I know that Epiphany, you guys work pretty closely with a lot of different ERP users, and specifically NetSuite is kind of our focus today. Can you tell me about that, on how kind of your involvement is with NetSuite, and then what we're looking to do with kind of this PayTrace NetSuite conversation?
Certainly. We've been working with NetSuite since 2002, back when it was NetLedger. And
Hmm.
so we've been with them all the years. And now we really focus on add-in products. We focus on equipment management, equipment repair. We focus on MRO industry. So we really, that's where we build add-on products for NetSuite. So because of that, we do run into, especially with field service, what do I need to do to get paid in the field, and how do I run credit card transactions? So we run into it that way, and so that's not a service we ever will nor want to provide. So we needed a really good partnership there to give that to our customers. So
Gotcha.
that's how we work with NetSuite today.
Fantastic. I love the fact that, by bringing on, PayTrace as a solution, now you're even adding on to that, right? Where you're providing value already in certain spaces, but now we can add in payments and really bring in that whole total package into, right? How can we remove a lot of these ancillary steps and try to consolidate all that into NetSuite into one simple to use product? So, um, fantastic. Brenda, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we get into the meat and potatoes of this thing?
I think it's time to have dinner. Let's go to meat and potatoes.
I love it. Okay, cool. So we're going to transition into a bit more kind of just pay trace focused stuff because I'm assuming pretty much anybody that's viewing this probably you haven't experienced PayTrace directly yet. Maybe you have, and that's fantastic. But we do want to get into a bit of who is PayTrace, what do we do, and how does this kind of connect to that NetSuite process. So just kind of setting some credibility to us. We've been doing this for a long time, right? PayTrace has been around for a couple decades now in the payment space. We've got about 40,000 users actually using us today. These are our unique businesses. And we process a lot of volume. Just under $50 billion of volume passes through our system annually. We've got a lot of really great partnerships, including Epiphany. So very thrilled to be having this webinar, this initial kind of rollout. And we do a lot of transactions on our system. So like I said, we're not necessarily a household name, especially being a B2B focused solution. We're not like a Square where you see them at every single retail establishment that you go to, but we're operating in the background. So you've probably interacted with us at some point or another, probably unknowingly. So um, with that said, I did want to talk about some of the challenges that a lot of companies are facing today. And you may know this, you may not know this. Brenda had to learn this firsthand when she had to cover on the credit card processing for a little bit, right? But one of the biggest challenges that a lot of companies are seeing is very slow traditional payment cycles. And what I mean by this is, in this space, in these B2B, these manufacturers, these suppliers that are right getting all these work orders, sales orders, right? It's celebration time. We're making sales, we're generating revenue for the company, but it's not actualized until we see that money in our bank account. And that's a huge challenge for financial teams today, and especially accounts receivable teams, is long uh, order to cash processes, right? How do we actually get the money in the bank for the things that we're selling, that we're packing, we're shipping, that's getting out there? So that's one of the things that we're tackling. Another thing is disconnected buying experience with B2B payments. There is a huge want and a huge need for more of a modern payment platform, right? We see it all the time as consumers ourselves in the fact that there's a whole lot of really great technologies out there, but um, it's geared towards us, right? Whether it's mobile payments or tap to pay or super slick invoicing or client portal or things like that. Whereas on the B2B side of payments, it's very common to still see paper checks, to have payments over the phone, and all these things lead to unhappy customers. They lead to errors in the payment processes, and it makes things tedious and slow. And then lastly, there's just a large demand right now for e-commerce growth, for digitizing this. Done a lot of data, a lot of analytics and research on what are some of the biggest challenges that CFOs face today. And one of them is tackling challenges with technology. Um, right, we are modernizing our platforms. We're using things like NetSuite and other ERPs today, and we need the rest of our processes to be able to keep up with that. So payments included. So these are a lot of the challenges that we're seeing today and that we're addressing through a lot of these payment technologies that we have. Now, I thought this was really interesting. The transition here was too quick. I wanted to post like a poll, but that's okay. Um, I think one of the most interesting data points that we've seen kind of doing research in B2B payments is the fact that 63% of all B2B payments made today in the United States are still using physical paper checks. And that's a big no-no. Checks are the most inefficient ways of processing. It's one of the most unsecure methods of processing. It's literally relying on snail mail and hoping that a piece of paper makes it from point A to point B, timely and securely, right? Um, Whereas there are these really great other digital options like ACH processing, which is right, electronic checks and credit cards, and even other meaning probably wire, cash maybe. Um, but we're trying to shrink this piece of the pie, this blue piece of the pie, and grow these because what we're seeing is that when companies begin to adopt these methods, um, they actually save money. You wouldn't think that because most people think the cost of a paper check is going to be essentially zero, but it's not, right? When we look at the actual cost of processing paper checks, it can be $20 to $25 on average based on the labor time that it takes, printing, mailing, receiving costs, and then the time expense of capital, right? When we can accelerate those processes with digital payments and make our people more efficient, make reconciliation simpler, right? Overall, we're actually going to be saving significant amounts of money. Um, but not only that, like Brenda mentioned, in the credit card space, we also have tools that we can leverage to drive down some of the costs in that. A big thing that PayTrace does really better than any other payment technology out there is this thing called interchange optimization. Now, I'm not going to get too technical on this, on the payment stuff. So, in a very high level, every time a business accepts a credit card payment, there's a cost to it, right? Intrinsically, when you look at the dollars and cents, credit card appears to be the most expensive because you can see on a statement it's costing me X percent of dollars to process this payment. However, um, all payments aren't set in stone. There are some things that we can do to actually reduce some of those costs. One of which is this program called Level 2 and Level 3. Now, I've got a chart on the screen here that you can look at that kind of breaks down the different costs of what some of these payments look like. So if you are a business that's accepting credit cards or you want to start accepting cards because your buyers now have all these virtual cards that you need to accept, we can make that a little bit simpler, right? So a lot of businesses, when they accept these types of, purchasing corporate cards, maybe paying 2.7, 2.95% just to accept those cards on top of whatever additional processing fees there might be and all sorts of stuff, right? If these transactions are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, that 3%, right, cuts into your margins and um, can eat away at your profitability. With PayTrace, we're actually able to leverage this program called Level 3, which we can automatically help you achieve by providing a lot more data, in this case to Visa, to MasterCard, to the major card brands, and can get that percentage down, right, as low or below 2%. So it's not uncommon for a business to adopt us. We implement them into whatever platform they need to, whatever credit card methods that they need, and we can reduce their costs pretty significantly. I just had a conversation not long ago with a merchant saying that we saved them almost $70,000 annually, um, just by using us versus, XYZ processor. So not only are we going to get you kind of the most modern, simple technology, but we're also going to help you save some money, which is really cool. Um, so diving in a little bit more into PayTrace, one of the other things that I really like about us, and Brenda, you kind of alluded to this earlier, is the fact that you don't have to jump through hoops when working with us. Um, in payments, there are a lot of players that are out there. And with that said, you'll run into things like payment gateways, processors, ISVs, payment networks, all sorts of things. And what's great about that is with PayTrace, we do all of it. We're really a full payment tech stack so that you don't need one partner to do the processing. You don't need the AR company to integrate with. You don't need a separate gate, right? We're doing all of that in kind of one-stop shop. So when you have questions, when you have a potential issue might come up, um, we're not going to point the finger because if we are, we're pointing it at ourselves. It's really as simple as payment processing can get in the fact that we're going to manage all of that for you. So we do the gateway, which is essentially the back end technology, making sure that all the transaction information goes to the right place. We do the merchant services, which is the actual credit card and ACH processing. And then we've got the actual interface, right? Whether it's a standalone interface, a NetSuite, or another ERP integration, all of that flows directly through PayTrace, right? We're going to manage all that for you. Um, so, uh, just in the interest of time, I'm not going to do a full demo, but I do want to talk about our NetSuite solution and what we bring to the table with that. We've been working in the NetSuite space now for probably the last 5 years, maybe even a little bit more than that. And we got there through a really great partner that developed this technology called New Gen Business Solutions. Fantastic ISV. They were actually named Oracle NetSuite's Partner of the Year a couple of years ago. So we really wanted to make sure that we're using the best of breed technology when introducing PayTrace into NetSuite. So NewGen's fantastic. They're NetSuite master developers, they're accountants, so they know exactly the challenges that most people see when they're working with this. So that's why, right, we use them to work with PayTrace. So with them, we've developed this integration here for NetSuite. What's great is that this is native NetSuite. This is not some middleware platform that it kind of looks like NetSuite, but it's not really. This is actually within the ERP, the software itself. So what's great is that this is just going to add on a layer of payments, whether that's invoicing, payment links, recurring billing, right? This is going to manage a lot of that payment process so that you're not having to manage multiple solutions. So I've got a couple screenshots on here that will actually show you some of the additions into NetSuite that this provides. You can see here actually selecting a card, right, to process within the system. From there, we can enter in all the payment information. If it's a new card, right, we can add a credit card. We can add a bank account via ACH. So we've got a couple different rails depending on what customer, how they want to pay, right? We want to meet our customers where they're at instead of forcing them to use a specific payment method. And this will just show you kind of what that approval screen looks like. I'm not gonna lie, every time I see this, I get kind of like that little endorphin rush, right? When it's like, yes, we succeeded. I have 135 more dollars than I did a few minutes ago. That's exciting, right? That means we're at the end of the payment process. We can now go ahead and wrap this up, close it out, and do some reconciliation. Um, and then we also have an invoicing platform. So for our customers that need to pay any outstanding invoices, right, we can go in here and apply payments to specific outstanding invoices. Um, Honestly, it's a very simple process. So I love this. Like I said, we've been doing this for a few years now within the NetSuite space. And our customer retention, our feedback, our reviews have been phenomenal on this. This last one that I'm showing you on here is our different payment methods. So if anybody wants like a URL that they can send out or provide or right, different ways that we can get this invoice or this payment in front of a customer, right? Pay now. We've got auto pay options where you can basically just automatically run a card on file, right? We're going to make this extremely simple to work with, kind of exactly how your customer wants to make those payments. So, right? That's it. If you want to see more of an in-depth kind of deep dive into the NetSuite demo and how PayTrace and NewGen works with this, we're more than happy to. I can share with you a previous webinar that we've done, or we can do kind of like a one-on-one demo, so you can take a look exactly how this works, ask questions, right? See how this works with for your company. So with that, I do have just a quick customer success story. I wanted to pull out one of the most unique ones that I think I've ever heard of because when I think of B2B, I don't usually think taxidermy. But we work with a company that specializes in taxidermy and interior environments, which if you've ever been to like a Cabela's or a Bass Pro Shop or something, you see all the animals and the rocks and mountains and stuff, right? They mastered that. So they actually do quite a bit of business to business, which is wild to me. But what's cool about this is that they've been processing with us for a few years now, and within the very first year of utilizing PayTrace, right, we were actually able to drive down the cost to over $75,000 for them, right, annually. That's somebody's salary, right? That's something that we can reinvest back into the business that we're not just wasting on payment processing. And not only that, but they quote that they've been able to reduce their labor hours annually by over 100, right? If you account that into whatever the cost of somebody's labor hours is, 30, 40, $50 an hour, that's a lot of money, right? And that's time that we can allocate into more strategic goals instead of just working on tactical, busy work. So, really great quote that I like pulling out of this was I've dealt with a lot of integrations to ERP and worked with a lot of ISVs, but this is one of the most seamless experiences I've ever had. When we talk about ERPs and implementation, we know that it can take a long time, right? It can be a lot of work. It can take months, years, right? We've done this enough. We can get you set up in the payments space on this within days at the latest, right? So, if you want to look at that, please reach out to us, right? Ultimately, our goal is to make things simpler for you, to make them more frictionless. We want you getting money in the bank quicker. We want your employees to be more efficient. And we want you guys to have all of the tools so that you can optimally track your payments. Um, right? You don't want that manual error. You don't want, um, right, to rely on snail mail to have an idea on, did my customer receive that? Did I send that correctly? Did I have the right address? Right? When you go digital, when you use a process like this, we're going to make it simple. So, a lot of benefits there. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. I am looking at the Q&A and I don't see any live questions on here. So I've put some contact information up here. Oops, and I actually have the wrong email address. I will scrub this and we'll get the right one in there. But reach out to us at sales@paytrace.com or sales@epiphanyinc.net. Um, if you're watching this on the YouTube, we'll have some contact information in the descriptor. So feel free, reach out to us. Brenda, any last comments before we go ahead and wrap it up?
No, I think that was great. It was good to see the some of the demonstration, and we'll reach out to all of you that are here to see if you want to see a deeper dive.
All right. Fantastic. Well, with that said, we'll go ahead and close this out. Brenda, thank you so much for being on here today. Really appreciate the invite and putting this together, and looking forward to some more uh, great partnership.
Sam here, Sam. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.